I really need to stop sitting around here drinking tea and thinking about how I want to start this video, because if I don't get a move on, my lunch break is going to be over and I'm going to have to film this in the darkness. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. I am on a bit of a TBR reduction mission. That was one of my reading goals in 2022, and even though I don't have like formal reading goals in 2023, it's definitely something I'm still very much working on. I've realized that I tend to have so much fun and be so excited to read the books that I've bought in, the last few months and the last year or two. And in light of that, I want to clear out some of the older books on my TBR that I honestly just don't think I want to read anymore. They sounded cool, I put them on there, I bought them, but I don't want to read them, and that's okay. I don't need to force myself to read books that I added to a TBR and bought like 5 or 6 years ago. That's not a sensible way to approach my reading. I should read what makes me excited and what I want to read, and if that happens to be older books, great, but if not, I don't want to weigh myself down with them. All of that is a very long lead-in to say I'm doing another Trash My TBR video, which of course you know because you saw the title and thumbnail. I thought I had done one of these pretty recently, but I was scrolling back through my videos this morning to try and figure out when that was, and I guess it was 8 months ago. If you are unfamiliar with the Trash My TBR sort of format concept, basically I'm going to give you a list of books that I'm planning to remove from my TBR and roughly why, and I only want to hear negative things. If one of these books is like your all-time favorite book, that's great. I'm so happy for you, but I'm only looking for things here that'll convince me to definitely yes, remove this from your TBR. I hated that book. I don't think you'll like that book, stuff like that. Let's get going. The first book on my list today is Dead Witch Walking by Kim Harrison. This is the first book in the Hollows series, and I will read you the description. Vampires rule the darkness in a predator-eat-predator world rife with dangers beyond imagining, and it's Rachel Morgan's job to keep that world civilized. A bounty hunter and witch with serious sex appeal and an attitude, she'll bring him back alive, dead, or undead. This sounded really fun. I think I put it on my TBR initially because people said it had like Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibes or something like that. It does still sound sort of fun, but I was scrolling through some of the reviews on the Storygraph and they're honestly not great, and a lot of the things that the negative reviews mentioned, like just incredibly poor decision making from the protagonist, sound like things that would really bug me, especially in this sort of book, so I think I'm gonna pass on this. Next up, we have The Sistine Secrets, Michelangelo's Forbidden Messages in the Heart of the Vatican by Benjamin Blech, and Roy Doliner. This is, I think, about meaning and symbolism and stuff in Michelangelo's paintings in the Vatican. It sounds sort of cool, but the description makes it sound like it's going to veer into I want to say the non-fiction version of the Da Vinci Code, which sounds mean. I'm probably judging this book based on absolutely nothing. I mean, clearly I am. All I have done is look at the cover and read the description, but I don't know. I'm just getting vibes that this is not going to be the type of non-fiction book I like. The next one on this list is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This is a memoir that Michelle Obama, wife of former US President Barack Obama, and, noted lawyer and everything in her own right, wrote, I think, about her childhood and then her rise into public power and what it was like being First Lady. I feel like I only have this book on my TBR because I feel like I should read it. And I don't think that's a good reason to read something. I want to read books because I'm excited about them. And I have nothing against Michelle Obama, but this is not a book I'm particularly excited about. This is not a book that particularly calls to me. Next up, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is a novel about a young woman struggling with depression. The description says, Sylvia Plath's shocking, realistic, and intensely emotional novel about a woman falling into the grip of insanity. Again, I don't feel like it's a book I actually want to read. I don't think I will enjoy this. I especially don't think I will enjoy this anytime in the near future. It sounds like it's really about the character's struggle with her mental health and that sort of thing, and I don't think I'm very interested in that. Then I have Rosewater by Tade Thompson. This is the first book in the Wormwood trilogy. Rosewater, a town on the edge. A community formed around the edges of a mysterious alien biodome. Its residents comprise the hopeful, the hungry, and the helpless. People eager for a glimpse inside the dome or a taste of its rumored healing powers. Kerr is a government agent with a criminal past. He is seen inside the biodome and doesn't care to again. But when something begins killing off others like himself, Kerr must defy his masters to search for an answer, facing his dark history and coming to a realization about a horrifying future. I haven't heard anything bad about this book. A lot of people seem to really like it. Again, I just don't feel drawn to read it. It doesn't sound like something that I'm going to enjoy a lot. Next up, we have another sci-fi and another first in a series. This is Powersat by Ben Bova, the first book in the Grand Tour series, which seems to have like 20 books or something, which honestly is a pretty heavy reason that I'm not super interested in this one now. There's something about a spaceship that breaks up on re-entry, and it is the beginning of the most important mission in the history of space. America needs energy, and Dan Randolph is determined to give it to them. He dreams of an array of geosynchronous powersats, satellites which gather solar energy and beam it to generators on Earth, freeing America from its addiction to fossil fuels and breaking the power of the oil cartels forever. But the wreck of the spaceplane has left his company, Astro Manufacturing, on the edge of bankruptcy. And this description is so long. I don't know, it doesn't feel like the vibe of a book I'm going to love, honestly. I don't know why I bought it in the first place. I don't know what called to me in the first place about this book. I don't want to feel like I need to start a 20-book series. And I know that I don't have to finish the series just because I read the first book. I don't even have to finish the first book. But this has been on my TBR for probably close to 5 years, and I have never wanted to read it. Leaving the sci-fi zone, at least for a moment, I have Z, a novel of Zelda Fitzgerald by Therese and Fowler. A dazzling novel that captures all the romance, glamour, and tragedy of the first flapper, Zelda Fitzgerald. When beautiful, reckless Southern belle Zelda Sire meets F. Scott Fitzgerald at a country club dance in 1918, she is 17 years old and he is a young Army lieutenant stationed in Alabama. Before long, the ungettable Zelda has fallen for him despite his unsuitability. Scott isn't wealthy, prominent, or even a Southerner and keeps insisting absurdly that his writing will bring him both fortune and fame. Her father is deeply unimpressed, but after Scott sells his first novel, This Side of Paradise, to Scribner's, Zelda optimistically boards a train north to marry him in the vestry of St. Patrick's Cathedral and take the rest as it comes. I've never read any of F. Scott Fitzgerald's books, honestly. I somehow missed out on The Great Gatsby in school. I think Zelda was an author in her own right as well, or creative of some sort, I think. I don't feel the need to read a novelization about authors whose books I haven't even read and am not interested in reading. I'm sure there's some interesting stories here, but I just don't feel like they're for me, at least not anytime in the near future. The next book on my list is Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. From my understanding, this is a semi-autobiographical coming-of-age novel. Jeanette Winterson grew up in a deeply religious family in the north of England, I think, and came to realize that she was not straight, and then sort of what happened after that. I just don't like coming-of-age novels usually. I'm sure there are some good ones. I'm sure this is amazing. People seem to love it. I don't like coming-of-age novels, so why would I try and read one? More sci-fi now. 2312 by Kim Stanley Robinson. The year is 2312. I don't know how we're gonna say years then. I won't need to know. Scientific and technical advances have opened gateways to an extraordinary future. Earth is no longer humanity's only home. New habitats have been created throughout the solar system, on moons, planets, and in between. But in this year, 2312, a sequence of events will force humanity to confront its past, its present, and its future. Again, it just doesn't sound like a book that I'm going to particularly like. I have nothing against sci-fi. I do enjoy a fair bit of it, but this doesn't sound like the sort of sci-fi that I'm going to love. And I don't know why I bought it in the first place. I don't know what about this made me think, oh, that's a book that I'm going to really enjoy. Next up, City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. Life is both fleeting and dangerous, and there's no point in denying yourself pleasure or being anything other than what you are. Beloved author Elizabeth Gilbert returns to fiction with a unique love story set in the New York City theater world during the 1940s. Told from the perspective of an older woman as she looks back on her youth with both pleasure and regret, but mostly pleasures. City of Girls explores themes of female sexuality and promiscuity, as well as idiosyncrasies of true love. I don't know why. That sounds like it should be the sort of book that I'm excited about. That sounds like the sort of book that I should be really into. I'm just really not. Again, it's been on my TBR for years and I've never felt drawn to read it. I could just like record that once and copy paste that sentence after every single one of these books, but it's repetitive because it's true. The reason I'm trying to get rid of these from my TBR is because even though they've been there for years, I've never actually been excited to read them. So why am I leaving them there, cluttering up TBR space that could go to books that I am excited about? And I know there's no actual limit on the size of my TBR or anything, obviously, but I do find it distracting to constantly be scrolling past books that I'm not excited about to get to the ones that I am. Next up, I have Late Nights on Air by Elizabeth Hay. This is a contemporary fiction, sort of slow-paced and I think kind of romantic novel. Harry Boyd, a hard-bitten refugee from failure in Toronto television, has returned to a small radio station in the Canadian North. There, in Yellowknife, in the summer of 1975, he falls in love with a voice on air, though the real woman, Dido Paris, is both a surprise and even more than he imagined. Dido and Harry are part of a cast of eccentric, utterly lovable characters, all transplants from elsewhere, who form an unlikely group at the station. Their loves and longings, their rivalries and entanglements, the stories of their past, and what brought each of them to the north form the center. One summer, on a canoe trip, 4 of them make into the Arctic wilderness, following the steps of the legendary Englishman John Hornby, who along with his small party starved to death in the Barrens in 1927. They find the balance of love shifting, much as the balance of power in the north is being changed by the proposed Mackenzie Valley gas pipeline, which threatens to displace native people from their land. I just don't feel like that's the story that calls to me. I don't dislike stories about relationships and people coming together and like that sort of thing, but nothing about that says something that I will enjoy. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I should just read it, but again, I kind of don't want to. And finally, I have March Violets by Philip Kerr. This is the first book in the Bernie Gunther series. Philip Kerr is the creator of taut, gripping, noir-tinged mysteries that are nothing short of spellbinding. The first book of the Berlin Noir trilogy, which expanded to be much more than a trilogy, I think there's like 15 or 16 books or something, if not more. March Violets introduces readers Bernie Gunther, an ex-policeman who thought he'd seen everything on the streets of 1930s Berlin, until he turned freelance and each case he tackled sucked him further into the grisly excesses of Nazi subculture. I just don't feel like reading that. Maybe it's good, maybe it's a great series, but like, I just don't feel like reading it. I know this has been super repetitive. I think I should just end the video here. Make sure to let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and disliked them. I mean, I always want to say like, oh, if you really did like them, tell me too so that I know to try them. But like, no, I'm glad you loved them, but I don't want to read them, so I don't want to question that now. Just tell me why I absolutely should not read these books, why you hated them, give me the help I need to clean out my TBR. And also, how do you guys deal with books that you've bought, that are on your TBR, you own them, you wanted to read them, and now they're just not exciting anymore. You're just not into them anymore. How do you guys deal with those? I would love to know. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like down below. If you would like to see more of my videos, make sure you hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.